Welcome to the Mills Knows Bills podcast. My name is Mills Bender. I'm the founder and CEO of Mills Knows Bills, where we help you, variable income earners, master your money in 90 days. The point of this podcast is to help you make the most of your fluctuating income so you can stop living paycheck to paycheck, pay off your debt twice as fast, and get on track toward reaching both your personal and professional financial goals. Now, as I continue to grow my team here at MKB, you may have some guest hosts from time to time. However, our goal does not change. Whether we're bringing in a guest speaker, having an in-depth conversation about our personal finances, or talking about a topic that is of interest to you, our goal is to help you master your money. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Mills Knows Bills podcast. I'm Mills Bender, the host and founder and CEO of MKB. On this podcast, we answer your burning financial questions. So once a week, we'll sit down with an entrepreneur. They get to ask a financial question that they're looking for guidance on, and we go ahead and answer it. So with that said, let's talk to our first guest for today. Joey, please take a moment to introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me. I'm Joey Schuster. I'm a CEO and founder of Real Review Response, and we are a startup in the reputation management space.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming today. What is your burning financial question? How can I help you?
Yeah, so I was just curious, for a startup founder, CEO like me, what factors should guide the decision between taking on debt financing versus offering equity to investors?
That's a really great question. So it depends on a variety of factors. I always like to say, personally, I would rather have 90% of a $10 million pie rather than 100% of a $100,000 pie, right? So it depends on what your growth trajectory looks like. If I were you, I would only bring on equity investors if you can see a strategic partnership with them and you think that you're going to get a bigger pie at the end of it as a result. Otherwise, explore debt options in the meantime. That's something that you can stay 100% owner of. There might be a cost to that debt, but if your return on investment of that debt is greater than that cost, for example, you're going to get 10x multiple on the money that you are investing into the business, then I would suggest going with the debt financing at first, right? For me, I've only stayed 100% owner for right now because I've not found that great strategic partner that I'm willing to give up equity to. I think where you're at, I would only take on strategic investors that are going to either get you connections to the platforms that you're wanting connections to, maybe the connections to help you with the sales. Otherwise, I would focus on debt financing for now and get it as cheap as you possibly can. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Any other follow-up questions on that?
I guess when you are getting further along, what are the key factors that you're looking for as far as terms?
For financing, debt financing?
With debt financing.
Yeah. So I look at number one, if it's going to be personally guaranteed, if it's going to show up on my personal credit report versus just my business. A lot of business owners don't even know that there's a different system for their business credit score. And so if you're able to have the loan completely under your business, it actually tends to be cheaper than if it's on your personal credit score or personal credit report. So if I were you, I would look at options for building your business credit. That typically takes somewhere between 9 to 12 months to really get a score that's worthy of lower debt financing rates. So I would start that process sooner rather than later. And then the second thing I would look at is what you're going to be doing with that money. Oftentimes, I find a lot of business owners who will just take a term loan and they end up spending it on marketing, but they had absolutely no intentions of initially spending it on marketing. And there's nothing wrong with that, but because they didn't have it clearly defined where they're going to put that money, they end up just spending it willy-nilly, and then they don't get the return on that initial investment in the business, right? So it ends up becoming liability and not leverage. So business credit score would be one thing. The second thing I would look at is having a strategic plan for actually implementing that money. And then the third option is shop around. Don't just go to Chase Bank. I love Chase Bank, but they're going to not treat you as well as a community bank would, for example. The other option, though, is to go to a business financing broker, somebody who can shop around through SBA, lines of credits, other term loans to make sure that you are getting the best financial solution that you are looking for. It's not a one size fits all. So I wouldn't just take the first thing that comes your way. I would research it.
Gotcha. And is there a situation where like the lowest rate isn't necessarily the best decision?
It can be.
Or is it straight look for the lowest rate?
I mean, it depends on if it's a line of credit versus a term loan, or if it is, if there's any prepayment penalties, right? Oftentimes the lower the rate, it's going to be better, but I would just compare like kind to like kind. Different. If you're wanting specifically a line of credit, get different quotes for lines of credits. And then from there, if all else is equal, then of course go with the lowest interest rate. But there are a variety of other factors that you need to take into consideration. Example, does it go on your personal credit report? Right? Are you personally guaranteeing that loan as well? If there's something that you can do to avoid having it personally guaranteed and having it just under the business, it also helps you separate the personal from the business, which allows you to be more sellable in the future too. Does that make sense?
And yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And then I guess like one last final like follow up to that is your thoughts on like the balance between like leveraging debt and having cash on hand. Like, is there a good like kind of like balance for that?
You
like
definitely want to be solvent. So solvency is your ability to repay debt. And there's a variety of different solvency ratios out there. A good rule of thumb to get started with is your debt like your total debt balance divided by your profit. And so you want that number to be 30% or less. So that means that your it's kind of like the business version of debt to income when you're applying for a mortgage, right? You want to make sure that you have the profit to be able to repay that debt in the future. So the lower that percentage, the more solvent you are, the more able you are to pay that down. So if I were you, I would look at that ratio, but then I would also make sure that before you take on any other debt, if you can afford to do so, set aside at least 3 months of a payment to that debt, especially if it's a term loan, in an emergency fund in case something happens and you're not able to pull from your typical revenue in order to pay that down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Great follow-up questions. Anything else I can answer for you?
No, that's really good. That was enlightening.
All right, good. I'm glad to help. So tell us more about this really cool reputation management tool that I know you've been building.
Yeah, so what we do is we are a reputation management platform that we really focus on like cultivating trust and establishing credibility and to drive growth through genuine customer connection, automation, and leveraging our top tier writers and creatives. So essentially what we do is we make sure that businesses are getting reviews and we respond to them with SEO in mind. So we really, really focus on connecting businesses with authentic consumer voices to make sure that their business is growing and getting the SEO value out of those reviews. Reviews are such a powerful part to a business being found through Google, through local search, and those pieces. And there's a way to manage it. And we kind of have a great platform that helps make that super, super efficient, as well as make sure that the work is actually getting done for them. There's so many platforms out there that make an owner's life easier, but it still means that like they still have to do the work. And with our platform, Real Review Response, it's actually us doing the work the right way for them while they don't have to give up control. So particularly, we do really, really well with corporations or franchises that really have to manage massive amounts of locations across the U.S. and still try to keep that same standard operating procedures, that same brand voice, and that same great authentic consumer interaction. And that's what we focus on. So definitely check us out at realreviewresponse.com. That's where you can kind of learn more about us.
Perfect. Yeah. And I think it's especially important for the franchise owners because they have built this brand and now this brand is expanding beyond them. And they need to make sure that they maintain that high quality of brand reputation. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and just the way that people, respond and write is just so wildly, can be so wildly different,
It
even just
is.
across. And so, to be able to kind of control that messaging, but also realizing that it's not just about the messaging either. There's real revenue implications as far as the SEO, as far as these locations being found, particularly like local searches. When somebody says, fill in the blank near me, whatever it is, coffee near me, fitness near me, plumber near me,
Yeah.
whatever it is you're filling out, like that becomes a location search, and Google is 100% ranking those businesses on their reviews. That is a major factor to how that business is ranked. So it's a huge difference in whether that location succeeds or fails, is how well they are asking for reviews and how they are being responded to.
That's interesting. I didn't know that about SEO.
Yeah.
You taught me something new on this podcast.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
So one more time, Joey, what is that website for us?
realreviewresponse.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I hope that we were able to provide you with insight. I know you sure as heck provided me some insight. Other than that, though, I hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.